Okay, so Superman and Lois had its final last night. The episode was called Waiting for Superman, and it did something pretty huge that has divided a lot of people, a lot of fans. Some people are really happy that they did it. Some people are really annoyed that they did it. I fall into the camp that I'm really annoyed they did it. But I'm gonna try really hard not to be super biased about that. Like, I'm gonna try and kind of keep most of this review talking about just the episode itself, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, because I did think it was a really great final. I thought it was the best episode of season 2. I thought it had some of the most epic moments in the entire show. I thought it was a much better final than the season 1 final, because I loved season 1, but I thought the final of season 1 was a little bit weaker than the rest of the season, whereas this time around I thought that the final was the strongest part of the season, honestly. But what they did is so huge and so big for a lot of Arrowverse fans that I kind of feel like I need to address it, and I think I might come across a bit dramatic or something about it, but it genuinely has pissed me off and put a little sour taste in my mouth about the show. Like, I watched the final about 2-3 hours ago, and I made sure not to record the review straight after watching it because I was so angry after that episode finished. Which is annoyed because the last 20 minutes still had some great moments in the episode, but I kept in my head going, I can't believe they just did this. And that is, they dropped a line, Sam Lane dropped a line saying that Superman is the only hero on this world, that other worlds have heroes, this one doesn't, Superman is all they've got. And that was the official line now that has pulled Superman and Lois off of Earth Prime and out of the core main Arrowverse shows. So like Flash, Supergirl, Legends, Batwoman, Arrow, Black Lightning, Superman and Lois is officially not on the same world as them. And the reason that, look, if I know I'm one of the biggest Arrowverse fans you could find. You know, I've had my problems with all the shows at one time or another, but overall I absolutely love that universe of shows. It's my favorite like franchise out there. Like, not even just DC, like I just mean the Arrowverse in general is my favorite franchise out there. Arrow is the reason why I love comic books, why I love superheroes, why I love TV. And I assumed this show was Earth Prime like most people. Now the thing is, yes, there have been a lot of inconsistencies, like things looking different, like the Fortress of Solitude looking different to Supergirl's Fortress of Solitude, the fact, none of the other characters were referenced and whatnot. But I mean, all of the shows have had their moments where they have not referenced any of the other characters. Like, Legends of Tomorrow barely ever referenced Supergirl or Kara. Flash does sometimes, but still not enough. Like, Flash is going through some pretty big stuff at the moment, but he's not referencing Superman, he's not referencing Supergirl every other episode. So while there is retcons and inconsistencies, there are things that all of the shows have. They're not things that are big enough to be like, well, that's not Earth Prime anymore. In terms of like the Fortress of Solitude, I know a lot of people were just saying like, maybe Superman is his own fortress now. Maybe he basically gave the fortress to Supergirl, he went off, got his own fortress, but it also could be something as simple as just a visual upgrade, whereas like in universe it's still the same thing, but out of universe it's just a visual upgrade. It's like Star Trek has had tons of things over the years where characters or ships or whatever have had visual upgrades that don't line up with the old way that the ships and the people looked, but it's just because technology in whatever the new show is better than it is in the other show, so they make it look different, but in universe it's still supposed to be the same thing. You're just supposed to be like, they just remastered it or whatever. I personally was thinking that it's sort of the same fortress, it's just visual upgrade sort of thing. But that's not even the biggest problem with this. The biggest problem with this is that we were very, very, very clearly baited and led on that this was in fact an Earth Prime show. This was in fact a core Arrowverse show. And Todd Helbing came out with a bunch of articles right after the episode aired saying the Diggle we've seen is a doppelganger. It's not the same Diggle as everything we've seen before. He's come out and said that this was established apparently back in season 1. They made the decision to not include this show in the other Arrowverse stuff. And there are a lot of people out there who are really happy about this, people who really did not want the show to be connected to the Arrowverse because they wanted Superman and Lois to be super standalone and so that you wouldn't need to watch other stuff, or that just because they think the Arrowverse quality is nowhere near Superman and Lois quality, which I mean, season 2 of Superman and Lois, visually it looked a lot better than all the other Arrowverse shows, but I thought Superman and Lois season 2 wasn't much to write home about. Like, I thought it was still kind of on par with what we can sort of expect from the other Arrowverse shows. Like, Superman and Lois isn't, they're not so far ahead of the other Arrowverse shows that you can be like, I'm so glad I'm watching this and I'm not watching the other stuff, sort of thing. I think that say that it is kind of bizarre. But there have been a bunch of things in the show that sort of imply differently, that sort of imply this has been a last minute decision, and also that we've just been led on and baited. Like, we were told back in February or back in March that the Superman and Lois Season 2 final would finally address Supergirl and Flash and Alex Danvers and where all these characters are and where Superman and Lois sits on the whole Earth Prime conversation. Which the answer was, they weren't addressed at all. What was addressed was that there are no other heroes in this world. That was it. That could easily have been said months ago. That could easily have been said years ago. That this show is not on Earth Prime. You don't need to say, we're finally going to tell you what's up with Supergirl and Flash in the season final, and then that being that they aren't on this Earth. You easily could have just told us before now that this show was not Earth Prime. We were led on to believe that this was still connected to the other shows. Talk about the Earth Prime comics, completely included Superman and Lois as an Earth Prime show. We've had the Superman and Lois Twitter account on a few times say that Earth Prime. We've had actors from the show say that they're Earth Prime, and I know a lot of people are also saying that, well, each show refers to their own Earth as Earth Prime, or each Earth refers to themselves as Earth Prime. But Todd Helbing came out then in an article and said that their Earth is not Earth Prime, they're on a different Earth. So clearly he's saying that the Arrowverse is Earth Prime and Superman and Lois is not Earth Prime. But then why are actors and the Twitter accounts and the social medias and all of that saying Earth Prime like that is what Superman and Lois is? There's also Diggle referenced Oliver, Crisis, other heroes, his lantern box. This is so much tiny things that scream to me that the show was always meant to be Arrowverse until very, very, very recently, or was always meant to be Earth Prime until very recently. They just kept the references and connections separate because they said because of COVID. They said they removed a Kara picture because of COVID. They said the Batwoman crossover didn't go ahead because of COVID. They easily were trying to make us think that this was still an Arrowverse show. Well, I mean, I keep saying that, but I mean, I consider Stargirl an Arrowverse show because it's John Wesley Shipp's Flash. Like, it's on a different Earth, but it's still connected. I should just say Earth Prime shows, because I'm still going to consider Superman and Lois an Arrowverse show, just not in the same vein that, like, Flash, Supergirl, Arrow sort of thing are. But to me, this screams like they really, really, really wanted to make the Arrowverse audience believe that this was connected to the other shows. They didn't want to lose that part of the audience. So they've been tiptoeing around the conversation until now, trying to play both sides, where they're keeping it in the Arrowverse, but they're also sort of doing little enough that people who aren't Arrowverse fans are still interested in the show. And now they've just pulled it completely, and it really feels like we've been lied to. It really does feel like they've finally decided, okay, let's cut it now, knowing that it's going to annoy so many fans and that it's going to feel like a slap in the face to so many fans. And honestly, it's really soured me on the overall show. I made some tweets where I was like, I don't know if I want to continue with these shows. I mean, I am going to. Like, now that I've kind of calmed down a little bit, I'm going to continue with the shows, obviously. But it feels really annoying to have this sort of feeling that the showrunners are lying to you and baiting you on, because obviously they do want us to watch. Like, they're going to say the things that they think will most make people want to watch their show, but you can do that without lying, and I feel like we've been lied to, and it really just has made me sour on the show. Like, I don't really know what else to say. I'm annoyed, I'm sad, and Superman and Lois, it's not the absolute great, phenomenal, this is the best show I've ever seen sort of thing I was given off in season 1. Like, season 2 quality alone I thought was already a big drop down from season 1, but just in general, like now what the showrunners and everyone have been saying, the show is just like slowly falling lower and lower on my list of things that I care about, which is really annoying because Superman's my favorite hero of all time. I think Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsy Tulloch are great as Superman and Lois, but I don't know, feels kind of annoying. But I'm gonna try and just talk about the rest of the episode. That was much longer than I thought, but yeah, overall I did think it was a great final. I thought it was much better than the season 1 final. I thought it was the best episode of season 2. There was a lot of epic moments in it, some of the greatest Superman scenes we've seen in the entire show. I really liked a lot what they did with Lois in this episode, where we had that cool bit where she was like, nobody deserves to be alone, and then it cuts to her being alone on the Bizarro world. I thought that was a really interesting thing to do, and the cinematography and the shots in this episode were fantastic. Like the constant shots with the other worlds in the background looked great, or like the plane or the helicopter, the submarine and stuff, like constant things with the worlds kind of switching around. The effects were great on it as well. I thought it looked fantastic. I'm really happy they didn't kill Taro. I did expect Taro to come back this episode and to be like kind of an ace up the sleeve. They had to defeat Ali. And while he didn't defeat Ali, he was a big reason why they won. So it kind of worked out. I'm really glad they didn't kill him, because I thought that they were going to go that direction with Ali kind of sucking the life out of him, and also when he was bringing Superman to throw him into the sun, I thought they were kind of going in the direction where Tao was going to sacrifice himself. There was also a lot of hugging in this episode. I feel like every character hugged each other at least once. There was also just a lot of little nice scenes that I feel like we've been missing in the show lately. Like just the Kent family hanging out at the end of the episode, I thought was something that really set this season apart from season 1, is that there was not near enough of those really nice scenes. And there's also this piece of music they play that I absolutely love, where it's like it's really upbeat and happy, and they played that during the big festival scene at the end. And that's another thing where like they played that music a lot in season 1 for really happy and upbeat scenes, and they basically didn't play that at all in season 2 until this moment. It's another little thing that I think sets the seasons apart. I also just think, like in general, they set up season 3 very well, and they set up a lot of the stuff in like really interesting places. They left a lot of the characters and a lot of the plots in very interesting places. Bruno Mannheim, I gotta say, if he is the main villain for season 3, I'm not entirely enthusiastic about that. I think Bruno Mannheim's like a fine character as kind of a secondary villain or something like that, but I don't think he'll really work as a main villain. You know, being leader of Intergang, yeah, it's probably going to be like Intergang in general, which I think Intergang got referenced in season 1, episode 4. But whichever the guy who played Stanley Dover in Arrow, whatever episode of Superman Lois he was in, I think that was the episode where they referenced Intergang, which was either episode 4 or 5. But Intergang itself, I think, even is like an arc villain. I don't think that's like a main entire season kind of villain you got right there. Because Bruno Mannheim, I've never thought he's been crazy interesting as a character. I was kind of hoping that the main villain for season 3 would be very cosmic based. Like I thought that now that we've done multiverse, we should go space kind of thing, and there's a lot of space villains you could choose from for Superman. Now, it's also totally possible Bruno is not the main villain for season 3. It could just be that's kind of John Henry Irons' sort of secondary villain for a little bit of the season, which I'm interested in John Henry Irons getting a proper storyline like this. I thought that this season, a lot of the characters didn't really get much of their own storyline. Every character was kind of focused on this whole Ali, other world sort of thing, whereas with John Henry Irons next season, I would really like him to get a separate storyline. So if Bruno Mannheim is just for that separate storyline, I'm very on board with it. Also, the fact that Bruno was the one who killed John Henry Irons on this Earth was really, really, really interesting, and I think it's a good way to kind of make this a personal mission for John Henry Irons. And I also am enthusiastic to see what they changed about Bruno, because one thing the show has done is change characters. Like Morgan Edge then became Tal-Rho, Bizarro Clark wasn't actually the villain, it ended up being Ali, sort of thing. Every season so far they've really played around with who the actual villain is until about the halfway point, and then we find out that who we thought was the villain isn't actually the villain. So I'd be really interested to see if they do that again next season with Bruno Mannheim. I also think that they do need to do Doomsday at some point, because I was really excited to see Doomsday, and I felt like they kind of baited and switched that a bit too easy. So I would like to see them like go full on with Doomsday at some point. I thought Jordan was great in this episode. Saving Tal-Rho and stuff was fantastic. I love how he bought trucks for Jonathan and Jordan. That was great. Chrissy now knows Superman's secret, which I'm not sure if that's the greatest idea. I think that Chrissy this season, the way she fell in with Ali very early, and now she did switch back again very, very fast, but I think that maybe it's not the best decision to trust her with, you know, this huge sort of secret so fast or so quickly. Speaking of Ali, I'm very much hoping we never see that character again. She's one of the most underwhelming villains in DCTV for me. I thought she was incredibly boring, and they did not flesh her character out well at all. So now that she's locked up, I'm hoping this isn't a Tal-Rho situation where she returns next season and she's kind of a semi-decent part of the show. It worked with Tal-Rho because Tal-Rho is a great character. I'm hoping it doesn't happen with Ali, because I don't think she's near as solid of a character as Tal-Rho was in season 1. So that's fair results. Also, Tal-Rho being on Bizarro World now, I wonder if like Bizarro World is going to be a a semi-regular part of next season, or if it's kind of thing where Tyro's going to jump there, come back, or if we'll even ever see Tyro again. It could be possible that he's just gone now. Natalie, I'm really excited to see what they do with her next season. I absolutely loved the scene where Jonathan and Jordan said that she's part of their family and they all hugged. That was great. It's another kind of moment where season 1 had tons of these really nice kind of happy moments, and season 2 has definitely been missing them, and this was one of those moments where I was like, yeah, that reminds me of season 1. Which that was kind of the mode for me for a lot of this episode. Was it really did remind me of season 1 and a lot of what I really liked about season 1. I'm hoping we get some new characters in season 2 or in season 3 that are sticking around, because I feel like now we've had 2 seasons of a lot of the same characters, so I would like to kind of see new main additions that aren't, you know, focused on the villain or aren't going to leave by the end of the season. But yeah, honestly, great final. I don't know why they had to pull this out of the Arrowverse. I feel like maybe they saw Legends and Batwoman were ending, and that Flash is probably ending next season. They saw the Arrowverse isn't going to be around much longer as this big connective tissue, and they didn't want the baggage of having so many older characters and older villains to deal with, so easier just to wreck on everything, which I get. But if you were gonna change this, you should have told us. You should have done this much earlier. You should have even told us before the episode. You shouldn't have been like, watch the episode if you want to find out. We should have been told. This is something that you kind of relay to the fans in a very sort of diplomatic way. You don't just do it in an episode and expect fans to kind of be on board with the decision. Now, I'm not trying to speak for all the fans. I know there's a lot of people out there who are happy the show was not connected, but there's also a lot of people out there who are not happy that they just completely cut ties. And I'm kind of trying to understand both aspects of this argument, but I don't know, man. It's frustrating. But how do you feel about that? How do you feel about Superman Lois not being Arrowverse anymore? How did you feel about the final? How did you feel about the season overall? I'm going to try and get a season review out and then a ranking where I kind of rank all of the second seasons of, I guess I'm going to have to call it DCTV Arrowverse now, or something that's not kind of core Arrowverse. But yeah, so a couple more Superman Lois videos will be coming out, and then probably nothing until season 3. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'm going to cover it. Well, by the time it comes back, I'm going to be like heavily stuck in my final year of college, so even if I wanted to cover it, I'm probably not going to have the time to at all. But I might still try and do videos every 5 episodes or so for the show. Maybe some kind of videos on what I want to see in season 3. I guess maybe some theory videos now that it's not like main core Arrowverse, but I don't know. It's left a sour taste in my mouth for sure. But yeah, let me know how you felt about the episode, and I'm hoping to hit 1K this year, so any new subscribers would really help with that. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, all of that, and I hope you have a great day.